All right, this is my presentation of my final project for design slash computer science 579 for summer of 2025. My project was Boundary Waters Canoe Area Campsite 886. Um, so we'll start with an introduction to my project, then we'll go over some of the goals, then we'll do a little demo. Um, Then after the demo, we'll explain the differences between what I expected to achieve versus what I actually achieved. Then we'll go over some of the challenges, and finally, we'll conclude with some future steps and the assets I used. So the inspiration for this project, camping for everyone from anywhere. So as an avid camper, it saddens me that many people are too nervous or inexperienced to go out in the great outdoors and experience camping. I've had some of my most memorable experiences of my life in the Boundary Waters and from a young child through to this year. So I decided to recreate this experience by replicating the campsite I most recently stayed at in the beginning of the summer on Cherokee Lake. But how? How can everyone experience camping from anywhere? Well, we're going to do it through this virtual experience. So the minimum viable product that I wanted to achieve was a 3D environment replicating the campsite I visited with the ability to walk around. To make it more immersive, I want to add ambient noise and interactive sounds, which played when you interact with different items. Um, I want to add interactivity with different things that you experience when you're camping, such as like pitching a tent, starting a fire, fishing, canoeing. This campsite had cliff jumping, which was pretty awesome. Sitting on logs, moving around, moving various items, climbing, swimming, that sort of stuff. And then day and night time just for immersivity, so it feels realistic. You're not just sitting at the same time of day, because that's just not how the real world is. So the roadmap we followed here was we started with recreating the terrain to mimic the campsite. So obviously, a lot of projects, the terrain doesn't matter too much, but I was recreating a real place. So I spent a lot of time just trying to get it to match what I had when I was there. So I looked at all my pictures and try to copy down landmarks and try and match the terrain with the terrain on Google Maps to match how that area looks. Adding the day-night cycle and ambient noise to increase immersion. Character movement was a big one, getting all the character rigs set up, allowing for jumping, running, swimming, climbing, all the figs for that. That took a long time. Interactive experiences, including kayaking, starting a fire, fishing, grabbing items, and more. That was obviously also a big part of the project, and that finally concluded in the big deliverable of an immersive experience, providing users an introductory feel for some of the things they could experience at the Boundary Waters, which might encourage them to go visit the Boundary Waters, or at the very least get outdoors and find some of the stuff for real, which is, I think, good for pretty much anyone who's physically able to, because it's great to get out in nature. Um, so now we'll do my demo. Um, Unfortunately, my project would not build because my computer is out of storage from this project. But all right, there we go. Um, so we got some controls here. Oh, it's gonna be really laggy on the screen, maybe. I don't know. But you can see jump. You can climb things usually. Yeah, there we go. So there's some climbing action. It's being really laggy right now because we're on the Teams meeting. Um, right now it's night. If we go find a tent, we can press Z and it'll speed it up to get a little closer to day. Let's see here. That's one big camera flaw, is that when you're going downhill, sometimes the camera goes out of sight, which isn't good. So swimming, as you can see here, and then when you're next to a canoe, you can press the grab button and you will get in the canoe. It's like there's a little animation. And once you're in the canoe, you got a little paddle animation going. Then you can press control and you'll go way faster, which is the most efficient way to get around here. Yeah, that's my night sky because it's pretty they got a pretty nice view of the stars up there, so I wanted something where you could see the night sky, maybe the northern lights. Because, that's something that people like to see, and that could encourage people to get out there and try and spot that for themselves. We'll drop that paddle there. You get over here. We got the backpack. Got the backpack now. And if you have the backpack, you can pick things up. And if you want, then you can empty all the things in your backpack. You can also pick up and move tents with the backpack, but you can't pick them up without the backpack. This is how I made pitching a tent, because pitching a tent is not really realistic with prefabs. Anyway, now it's daytime. I kind of knocked that tent a little bit. That's okay. This is just something I put here for fun. You can grab a ball and throw it. And whoa, I scored. Let's go. Celebratory cliff jump. Go find a cliff. So yeah, this is where I recreated the cliff jumping. And yeah, I think I got the water physics pretty realistic because let's see, I went down a little bit, then came back up to the surface after jumping in. You can see I made a lot of terrain. This place is really big, which is one of the reasons why it wouldn't build, because it's so large. I'm not sure if I'm missing. Oh yeah, I'm missing two things. Sitting and fishing. Are the two big things I'm missing. So if you go here, we have the fishing rod. You can grab that. And go to the lake, and you can press C, and it will cast in a minute here. Well, look at that, we're fishing. It's reeling in a little bit, and if you start walking, it should exit the animation. There we go. Another one is sitting. Go to sit down. There we go. And you don't need to be sitting on something to sit, which isn't great. Would probably add that you have to be next to something you can sit on in the future. Add like a sittable tag or something, but for now you just kind of sit down. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that's like interactive. Obviously, this world's pretty big. There's some other stuff, some other interesting terrain. You can do some stuff with the backpack. You can move around. There's a river over somewhere, which is actually how you portage in, which makes it more realistic to the original campsite. So I think overall, I did a pretty good job of recreating this campsite experience. We're gonna try and, okay. So yeah, 3D environment replicating the campsite I visited. I think I went above and beyond what I expected to get done there. It actually looks a lot like the actual campsite. Has a lot of the same landmarks and features. Obviously, like cliff jumping, the river that you ported or that you go into the lake through, I recreated. Obviously, I couldn't recreate the whole lake just because of, I mean, the lake's it's a pretty huge lake, but yeah, I think I did a pretty good job on that. One of the goals was ambient noise mixed with interactive sounds, which play as a result of certain interactions. There is ambient noise. I'm not sure if it's playing over the Teams meeting or not, but I could not get sound effects to work consistently. They'll sometimes play, like there's splashes that sometimes play when you're swimming, and there's supposed to be footsteps, but they just don't work very often. And then interactivity with the potential for pitching a tent, starting a fire, fishing, canoeing, cliff jumping, sitting on logs, and moving various items. As you could see in the demo, we got all of that in, and obviously more like swimming and climbing. The swimming and climbing physics, I didn't do very much with climbing there. Climbing was pretty cool to get working. So yeah, the swimming and climbing is just unbelievably difficult to script because you had to write all the physics for that, for gravity and for falling. For climbing, there's not actually a command to climb, it's just if you're trying to go forward and you can't. So if you're trying to go forward and the slope is too high, it goes based off of the slope of the ground, then it will open the climbing sequence function. And then for swimming, it's just really hard to get the physics and for that to work for buoyancy and stuff without just like being super finicky and up and down and jumping all over the place. Interactivity, eventually though, you can see I got it working pretty good. For interactivity, it took a lot of trial and error to be able to accurately grab things. As you can see with some of the stuff like the fishing pole, it doesn't really line up super great, but if I had more time, I could probably figure out how to line those up, but I just want to get as many of the features that I said I would get done, so I wasn't focusing too much on things lining up exactly how they should, as long as it looks somewhat realistic from behind the player or whatever. Like, I've considered it fine. Um, Also, processing power, my computer can barely run anymore, which is why I couldn't build. I was sitting here for like an hour, which is why this project's gonna be late. We're just waiting for it to build and it wouldn't. So yeah, there's like no storage left on my computer. I'm gonna probably have to get a new one. Um, Anytime. Anyway, with more time, I would fix the various bugs that I discussed, such as like the camera going behind the terrain when you're going downhill. Um, and items not being held perfectly. I'd try and get the sound effects, like interactive sound effects working better. I'd add animals. I think it'd be really cool to add like moose or like loons and other cool animals that you can see if you go to the Boundary Waters, because that could really encourage people who maybe just like wildlife but are nervous to go outside, that, hey, there's some cool stuff out there you can go see. Um, Yeah, although that might actually scare them more, I don't know. Another thing I would like to do is add mini games and achievements. Um, yeah, I think it'd be really cool to put in like maybe if you catch a fish, you can like fillet it, and then that would open like a 2D sequence where you have to like line up the knife right, and that could be like something you have to do, or like I don't know, other fun little mini games or achievements, like if catching a certain amount of fish. Also making fishing actually be able to catch fish, that too. Um, so I used a variety of assets. You can see them here. Yeah, I used Ready Player Me for the character, Mixamo for a lot of the animations, and then various in-game items from the Unity Asset Store and Sketchfab. Thank you for watching this very long presentation.